Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hello, I'm Tristan Riddell.
And I'm Lee Hutchison.
And welcome to the Senate Floor.
Talk nerdy to me.
Welcome to Nerd Party.
That's right, everybody. This is the Senate Floor. Thank you so much for tuning in. And we have a special treat for you this week. This is the 50th episode of the Senate Floor. And some of you might be going, hey, Tristan, if this is the 50th episode, where is our beloved Matt Hansen? And why is this Scottish imposter here? Well, I'd say screw you. He's not an imposter. He is a fantastic and beautiful man. But the thing is, Matt has this thing called a life. And I don't, it's like it gets in the way sometimes. But he said to go ahead and record the 50th show, and he is here in spirit. Lee, how are you doing?
I don't know how to take that, Tristan. Yes, I'm happy to be here as an imposter, but I feel pretty sexy now, so yeah, I'll take that.
Okay, so like I inferred you were an imposter at first, but then complimented you on your look, so I think that evens it out.
Yes, exactly. You know how to hit the spot.
All right. Well, you are not the only.
Sexy.
Oh, hey, there we go. Some of you might have heard a third voice, and then there is a fourth voice coming right after that, because we are welcoming the Jedi Masters to the Senate Floor for the first time.
Yes, you are, and we're going to stage a coup.
I'm so glad to be here. I feel like we haven't ever left. Like we always been here in spirit, and now we're just finally here in corporeal form.
It's a very bipartisan relationship we've got here on the Nerd Party.
Now, is that like a difference between the living force and the whatever other force that you guys always talk about?
No, the thing is, it's capitalizing on the discarded concept from Return of the Jedi, where Lucas was going to have Obi-Wan come back in corporeal form to fight alongside Luke. But he later walked back that back. But we've decided to reintroduce that into canon by appearing on the Senate Floor.
Okay, well, there you go. I mean, anything that we can do to further screw with canon for the fans, I am all for.
Living for it.
All right, well, this episode, we're doing something insanely special. You guys respond, and when I say you guys, I mean the audience. You guys have responded so well to our last commentary when we did The Force Awakens that, you know what? We just realized that we had to do another commentary. And since we wanted to do something a little bit different than Star Wars, we thought, what's just as cool as Star Wars? And in my mind, that would be Batman. And so we are doing Batman 1989 with Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson, directed by Tim Burton.
Yes.
Are you guys at all excited?
I'm excited.
I'm so looking forward to finally getting back to this film. I would say probably, this is maybe 10 years I haven't seen this movie. So I'm interested to go back and see if it holds up.
I think I've watched this movie at least once a year since 1989. Minimum.
Yeah, I'm probably once a year as well.
Yeah.
It'll be one of those things I'll do a double bill with this and Batman Returns. So, yep, I'm looking forward to my first watch of it this year.
I'll do a double bill, but it won't be with Batman Returns.
I was just about to say the same exact thing. All right. Well, with no further ado, let's just go ahead and get this started. For those of you at home, what we normally do with commentaries is we do a countdown. We say 3, 2, 1, play. And then we play it and we listen to each other and listen to the movie with subtitles. And you guys get to follow along at home. But also, if you are driving and you think it's dangerous to watch this movie while you drive, we completely understand.
Yeah, you just need to pull over, pull it up on your iPhone, wait for 2 hours while we talk about it, and then go back on your way.
Yes, but for those of you who don't want to do that, we will make it as entertaining as possible so you don't actually need it. But for those of you who don't actually have a copy, it's on Netflix right now. So, yeah, head to it. All right, everybody, you got your movie queued up?
Yep.
Yes.
Let's do it. So 3, 2, 1, play.
I always love the old Warner Brothers logo.
And the music. The thing is, every time I hear this music and or see this opening right here where the logo fades, I'm 13 going on 14, sitting in a movie theater in June of 1989 and seeing it start and saying to myself, what's going on right here? Like the whole audience, there's this sense of suspense that I'll never forget. Like everybody trying to figure out what am I looking at? Like, are we in the Batcave? What's happening right now? And I think that this opening is so slick because it's an overture, but it's done in such a way with the camera movement where to this day, it pulls you in where it's like, what am I watching? Where am I going around? What's the importance of this? I love this opening.
It's definitely one of the best overtures, I think. I think in recent years, comic book movies have really lacked an overture or a memorable score that you can hum and sing along to. And I actually recently heard this live for the first time, and I was just so excited. I was like a little boy. I've heard this so many times on iPods, CDs, and to hear it live with an orchestra was such a special feeling.
Oh,
do you know how often we hear Lee say that? Like, I just recently heard this live for the first time. I'm so jealous that you get to hear all of these great composers.
I'm a culture vulture.
I'm sorry, Rushing, what were you saying?
Well, I was just going to say, I think that this is something that's really important, and like you, Lee, I think is missing in comic book movies, is that score is so important. A theme for that character is so important. And, I think of the Marvel movies, for the most part, really not having a lot of great thematic elements to them with music, and how that really brings the character out. Whenever, even Nolan's Batman films, when you heard that dun, 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 you knew something awesome Batman-wise was about to happen. And I think that's so important. You think all the way back to James Bond, that the music meant something. And like when it started playing, unless it was Dr. No, he was going to do something cool. Dr. No had just played, when he was walking into the building. I think
opening doors as well.
Exactly. So I just think that that's something that's really special.
Here it comes.
And this movie, it starts like that, and that's great.
Yeah. I love that. It's so, I'm sorry. I know I just keep going back to it, but it's so, I think even more so than like needing to have something hummable, like an opening like we just watched, it lets you hit the reset button. Whatever happened to you before you entered the movie theater, that overture, everything you just went through musically and everything, completely reset you. It literally transported you elsewhere. And at the same time, by resolving as the Batman logo, lets you know, okay, the real world is behind you. We're going to step through this screen and we're going to see something fantastic. And immediately you see a world that is recognizable, but at the same time borrowing fashions, from yesteryear, from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. It's not like people in 1989 walked around with fedoras on and three-piece suits when they went out to the city. It's so cool, and it's such a neat vibe.
I'm glad that you brought that up, John, because I really wanted to talk about Gotham City. We open up the movie and boom, it says Gotham City, and I want to ask you guys, what do you think of this version of Gotham City compared to other Gothams that we've seen before and since? And does this? I always felt like this one kind of felt like timeless London. Like how there's so many times that you see in movies where it's London, but it could be any time and we have no idea. I feel like this version of Gotham definitely grabbed onto that. What do you guys think?
For me, it's definitely one of my favorite versions of Gotham. For me, I never get too hung up on a certain one as idyllic Gotham. I think the one in Nolan's movies is incredible. I love the style of it in the animated series, which I grew up on in the 90s. But for me, this one complements the Tim Burton world so well that for me, there's not a favorite one. It's always what's best for the Batman at the time, and I think that's always the best way to go with comic book movies. You can if you get so attached to something, then it's harder to accept it when it changes, whether it's the Nolan into then Snyder. This is probably one of my favorites overall, though.
I think that this one reminds me so much of it reminds me of the animated series. Like, that's what this Gotham looks like. It's like the animated series come to life because it's so overblown, it's so gothic, it's so big. It really does. It looks as comic booky and cartoony almost as possible, and I think that really fits the feel of what Burton was going for.
Yeah, but just remember that animated series was informed by this. Burton, the production design, it's Anton Furst did the production design on this, and it is so definite and so clear. Tristan, I think it's interesting that you say New York. For me, I mean, I think it's interesting that you say London, because for me, it's New York. And for me, this has very much a 1980s New York. I think that people have lost sight of what New York was like pre-Giuliani, like the absolute cesspool that it was. And this really, I think that all of the production design in this speaks to, the way people perceived New York back then, like, which was just, you were just as likely to get mugged walking home from the theater as you were to catch a cab. And, it's so funny now, because you look at this, and this was great action, this scene going on right now. It's like, oh, the Batarang, oh, and he got him, and all of this stuff. But like, by today's standards, what people expect out of a fight scene is, all of this jujitsu and wire fu and all of this Matrix style fighting. But this still works. This is the Batman. This is the brutal Batman. Like, he's not interested in doing a whole bunch of fancy kicks. He's just going to kick your ass and hang you over the edge and scare you. Like, I just think it's so cool.
That line, "I'm Batman," that's become iconic, and everybody knows that moment, and everybody has recreated that moment alone in their bedroom. Oh, yeah. It was interesting to find out that originally in the script it's "I am the Night," and Keaton was just like, "No, that's crap. This one's better," and so he just says "I'm Batman," and that's what they went with. Yeah,
and I was so happy as a Star Wars fanboy. I was like, oh my gosh, Lando Calrissian is playing Harvey Dent. This is the greatest thing ever. Oh, it's chocolate and peanut butter put together. This is the best thing. And I was so, now I know that he has a significant role in this movie. I was so disappointed with the sequels that they didn't use him. It was so upsetting to me.
I was just talking about that the other day.
He was offered this role, and they said, we're going to turn you into Two-Face later. That's the plan.
And that's why he took the role as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just they had to buy him out of his contract, so they really wanted Tommy Lee Jones, and I feel like we were robbed as a culture of a Billy D. Williams Two-Face.
Which would have been brilliant. Really would have been brilliant. And, I think that what's interesting, too, to point out about this movie, about the approach to it, is the first time we meet our hero, he's Batman. The first time we meet the Joker, he's Jack. Like, how often is it now in these big budget movies where everything is so overstuffed, the villain gets just as much developmental treatment, if not more, in this than the hero does. Like, he's given equal weight. He doesn't just serve as an antagonist. He's an actual fully developed character. And so we're getting to know Jack here and his hubris and his viciousness just in dialogue. Like, this is not carried forward in today's movies. Like, they rely way too much on using the visual language to convey that.
Well, that's something that's really interesting because, in the comics, we don't usually know anything about Joker's background. And so it's very interesting that this movie gives us, like, who he was before he became the Joker, because that's a very different aspect from what you would get in the comics. That's the Joker is such a character that's mysterious. Like, even the latest Rebirth said we were going to learn the Joker's name. Well, find out there's 3 Jokers. So, like, it's crazy that this movie starts with a character who's going to become the villain that's so iconic, but we actually are meeting the guy before, he's the clown, it's kind of fascinating.
For me, I think, I wonder, like, I don't know if you've ever watched it, but across the first 4 Batman movies, like, it's got an incredible documentary series. It's about 90 minutes per movie, and it's so insightful, honest, and it's a fantastic insight into the making of it. And they talk about getting Jack Nicholson, and they said that when they got him, they were like, it's like when you're a soccer coach or something, like, you've got this star player now, you start to build a lot of more of the script, the play around this guy. And so they went back when they hired Jack Nicholson and they fairly beefed up his role in the script. So how much that could have changed from the casting of Jack Nicholson, whether it was an unknown originally, and it wasn't going to have the sort of the padding out with, no, I say that, I don't mean to say that in a negative way, but having the parts of him at the past, having him now, getting to know him as Jack, how much of that was added in after the casting of Nicholson.
Well, and I think it was in that same documentary or around the time that Burton spoke to the fact that casting Nicholson essentially saved his involvement in the movie because Jack Palance was such a jerk. Like the first take he ever had with him, like apparently like abused Burton, was like just because Palance was nuts. But apparently it was Nicholson who talked Burton off the ledge and was like, no, you can do this. We're going to make it through this. I'm going to help you out. We're going to make everything happen. So that's an interesting angle too, I think.
Yeah, that's I knew that there was some friction between Burton and Palance, but I had no idea that Nicholson was the one that kind of brokered peace or brought Burton back. That's pretty awesome. Like, what do you? I know that there's reports of like everybody and their mom was considered for Bruce Wayne and considered for Joker in the 80s, and I think what I've heard that were Burton's first choice, but of course overruled either by scheduling conflicts or the studio. He wanted Mel Gibson as Bruce Wayne and Batman, and Burton also wanted Brad Dourif as the Joker. What kind of movie do you think this would have been with a Mel Gibson Batman and a Brad Dourif Joker?
Crazier.
Well,
definitely.
Yeah. Unhinged.
Definitely crazier. Yeah.
Okay. Think back, to this time period. Mel Gibson is a well-respected actor, and he's a great actor at that point. He does really good work, and I think Brad Dourif, that would have just been an insane Joker. That what he can do, I think it would have been fantastic. I think he would have been just as iconic as Nicholson. My question was: does Mel Gibson bring something to the role where you just feel like it's too much Mel Gibson to Batman and Bruce Wayne, or is it kind of good that Keaton? I don't know. Like, to me, I know there was a huge hullabaloo about Keaton being cast and people like, oh, he can't pull it off, but now everybody looks back as like you cast somebody, you let them play the role, and then we see how it turns out.
Yeah,
for me, I always think for me, I always think my favorite Batmans are the unknowns, that someone that you can almost project your Bruce Waynes and Batmans onto. And I think that the biggest successes for me personally have been Michael Keaton and Christian Bale. And whereas I thought, say for example, with George Clooney, every time I watched that movie, and even at the time, I was kind of like, that's George Clooney. And then with Ben Affleck, I thought he did a fantastic job, I struggled to project onto him, that's Batman, without thinking, there's that buffer in the way, thinking that's Ben Affleck. So I always think that the more unknown, the more less famous face is always what I look for potentially in a Bruce Wayne casting and a Batman casting.
Well, the two names I remember being thrown about back then as names at the studio either nixed or threw in the mix. Rutger Hauer being under consideration for Batman, and Anthony Perkins for the Joker. And I think that Perkins would have been a brilliant Joker. Dourif is so, at this point, to speak to your point, Matt, about put yourself back in the time, at that point I could understand the studio not wanting to go with him because he was a David Lynch type of guy. He was the Blue Velvet type of guy that they, that I could understand them making the casting decision that they did. Burton gets Keaton because they get Nicholson. Because Nicholson, who even gets top billing, he's a name that's going to put people in the seats. Like, people, over time you forget what a huge risk this movie was for Warner Brothers. And it was just, they needed something that they knew was going to be a bankable star to get them in there. And like I go back, though, to Perkins. I think he would have been a perfect Joker because he was lean and angular and had obviously experience playing a psychopath. So,
and I think Brad Dourif, we think about the time as well, he was in the Chucky movies as well at the time, and I think he's fantastic in those roles. So I can see an element of him being able to translate over to the Joker quite well, that I could imagine Burton watching those movies and thinking, there's something in this guy's voice that would lend itself really well to the Joker.
Yeah, John, I think I think you made a really interesting point about the time period and why the studio made the decision that they did, because with Dourif, I think Dourif would have given a much more Heath Ledger type Joker.
For sure.
And we would not have been ready for that in 1989.
No. I mean, the thing is, there's a lot about this that seems very influenced by Donner's Superman. From the the heavy leaning on a newspaper angle and the way that the characters are drawn. And as much as I threw shade on Palance earlier for his interaction with Burton, I gotta say, if there was there were tons of scenes that my friends and I quoted nonstop for a year after this movie. But this scene right here that, don't forget your lucky deck. Like, Palance is so quotable in any role that he had. Jack, I need someone I can trust.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear you, John, because it is so absolutely true. Because like me with my core group of friends and even some family, whenever we play cards or whenever there is a deck, someone will eventually say, "Don't forget your lucky deck." Just like that Palance, that breathy Palance voice is so iconic.
Try saying that at like a casino night and you'll get some pretty odd looks. I've had that before.
I think, though, one of the things, to speak to your point, John, that they're kind of following in the Donner mold, but one of the things that I think that Burton does, which is very interesting and starts comic book movies on a slightly different path, is that he takes this pretty seriously. This has a much more serious tone than Superman 78 does. And it really, it feels like it's taking its world more seriously than that does, which is so lighthearted and everything. And so I think Burton is, along him and Singer in X-Men are the ones that really are responsible for taking comic book movies and turning them into something that people take seriously nowadays, instead of it just being like, oh, we're going to go see a comic book film that, it's not a Golan and Globus kind of thing anymore. We take this stuff seriously now.
Oh, we'd always throw Blade in there as well.
But I agree with you, Matt. The one thing I would say is that I think that Burton lightens the script to a degree. He chooses camera angles in this movie, like the one we just saw with the opening shot of the mansion that seem inspired by the 60s TV show. So he's got a few winks and nods that way. I think if you got a different director than Burton, somebody more serious-minded, which is
Cronenberg,
terrible, right? And you take this script and you give it to him. This is like a hard R. Like the Joker is straight up brutal in this movie, and if you take away Burton's sensibilities of some of the winks and nods that he has throughout it to lighten it even, I think that, and I'm sorry, you know what? Here's my first distraction point, taking me completely off. That prom dress that Vicky Vale is wearing,
it's awful.
Thank goodness we made it out of the 80s, guys.
Oh, I thought you were going to mention the Alfred bit, where Bruce just kept putting everything down in the wrong place, and Alfred's there to pick him up. It was like such a cool metaphor for how single-minded and focused Bruce Wayne is, and how Alfred is always there to pick up the pieces. And it's funny and lighthearted, like you were talking about.
I always think that it comes back as well to Keaton as well, that people forget that Keaton, came from a background of comedy, and that's why a lot of people were kind of against him at the time, that, what we doing casting this comedy actor in this role? We don't want to have this camp version of Batman again. And I think that informs a lot of the scenes as well, that when you see Vicky Vale there, he's kind of looking around like he's kind of double checking that. Even one of my favorite and funniest Batman moments in any line is when they've got the huge dinner table scene, and that came from Keaton's idea as well. Like, he's come from that comedy background where he goes like, we've got this set, what can we do, what can I use with my body language? And I think that really lends a bit of levity and humor to this the stuff as well. So I think Keaton deserves some plaudits as well for his work in bringing a bit of humor too.
Completely agree with you. And it's funny because Keaton would have been viewed more in the Robert Wuhl mold than the Batman mode. Previous to this, although he did have, I think right before this, Clean and Sober had come out, which gave him some serious cred. Because if I recall correctly, Clean and Sober came out the summer before, around the same time as Die Hard. And so I think that had given him a little bit, had set the studio at a little bit more ease about him playing what's supposed to be this heroic role as opposed to the zany gung-ho role that he had been known for. And I love this armory.
I always like Alexander Knox in this movie as well. He's a character I like. I'm not ashamed of that.
You shouldn't be. He's funny.
I think he's us. I think that's what we would be like in the Gotham world. That he is the audience, and I imagine he always was a bit annoyed that he was never in the other movies as well.
He should have been. I remember Batman Returns. There was a character who dressed and looked exactly like him in his trench coat, and I was like, that was obviously supposed to be Knox. Okay, I felt cheated by that. But even this exchange right here, where it's like, oh, Alexander Knox, yeah, I read your stuff. Oh, thanks. Can I have a grant? Like that's a really cute moment. And the fact that they follow it up at the end of this scene was like, oh, and give Knox a grant. Like it's so much fun. It really is.
Yeah, apparently the king of the Wicker People line was all ad lib by Wool. Like that was all him.
What do you guys think of the chemistry here between Keaton and Basinger? Do you buy it at this point?
I buy the sexual chemistry. I do. Like I believe that these are two people who are heavily attracted to each other, but I do not see any kind of real relationship or spark between them. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah.
I could see that. Although I will also call out Robert Wall's smug look of pride that Bruce Wayne said, oh, right, the Batman stuff. Like that. That is a nice moment too, where he's so, he's a guy who's been, it would be like us walking into a convention and somebody being like, oh yeah, the Senate floor, I listen to that. I can imagine that, like, oh, well, thank you very much. We're proud of that.
I also love it when some of my favorite moments in Batman films is when Bruce Wayne is talking about Batman to people who don't know that he's Batman. I love that. Like when Christian Bale, he's like, guy dresses up like a bat clearly has issues.
Yeah.
I like this whole scene here too because Burton really, he embraces the over-the-topness of everything. Like just this room that they're in, like it's just so over the top. When you think of like what rich people collect and they're just immaculately enormous homes, and there's something about that we don't do too much in comic book movies anymore because you'd be laughed at for going so over the top. But I mean, this really, in so many ways, feels like an 80s comic come to life. And
oh yeah, sure.
That's one of the best compliments I think you can give this, is that it really does feel like the time period's comic book look and feel, and that's fantastic.
And here's a question for you. I know that convenience stores, obviously Bruce Wayne is surveilling every room in his own house, which is a little creepy. But like if you, like a convenience store, they wipe the tapes like every day. Like, did Bruce Wayne do that too? Did he like re-record over everything, or did he was like the Batcave eventually going to be filled up from bottom to top with old videotapes so that he could go back in and see
like
things?
Nothing happening, but the cat running through like one part of the house to the other, because like who else is in this house but him and Alfred most of the time?
Well, Alfred's not got much else to do during the day. He's just got to cook for one, so he's got to do the time where he's checking the VHS, and then probably the period in the late 90s where he did the VHS to DVD conversion and all.
Into
The
digital.
sad thing about me is that I actually have headcanon about this because I've actually thought about it, and it's I believe that he records whenever he has people over, like he's like Nixon, because he had this big gala going on and he had people of important stature on. He's like, okay, I'm going to turn all the cameras on. But like if it's just him and Alfred, he's not going to be recording that room with all of like the Japanese sculpture and the wicker band, and everything like that.
Now that is a quote right there. Batman is Nixon.
But if he did, like the following morning at breakfast one time, he's like, Alfred, I noticed you had to go to the bathroom a lot last night. You feeling okay? I didn't know that, sir. Just a hunch.
I know we joke about it, but I actually think that's a really interesting point, Tristan, because how many times has there been a debate about Batman? Is Batman left wing, right wing? Is he a vigilante? Is he, as a superhero? That ties into a lot in that there was so many times that people debated, say, for the Nolan movies, like going, Batman's standing up for Republican values, but no, he's more of a kind of, a liberal in these respects. And I think that that's something that's always gone through Batman, is that people will debate, which side of the aisle he almost falls down with his behavior and with his acts on surveillance, with his acts on intervention.
I think we just call Batman the ultimate pessimist, and whatever side that falls on. But that's, I was just reading Green Lantern Rebirth the other day, and like, he is the ultimate pessimist in that. He does not believe that, Hal Jordan is a good guy with everything that's happened in the comics up to that point. And he wants answers, and he will take him down. And until you answer Batman, something bad he's going to stand in your way. Like, to me, that's Batman.
Well, I think that this Batman, though, is just a pragmatist. Like he's, in a sense, because we talk about the time period and everything, you got to keep in mind the 80s were the time period for Death Wish and for vigilante fantasy movies. And that definitely informs Batman during this time period. And in this film, where it's just somebody who's just like, they can't get it done. The corruption is so bad, and I mean, yes, I know that is intrinsic to Batman as a character, but this is a much more, much more of a, an ordinary citizen who's had enough, who's gotten fed up and he's not going to take it anymore. He got mugged on the subway one last time sort of Batman, as opposed to I went off and I trained in the Himalayas for, 20 years before I came back out from the wilderness. Like, this Batman feels like somebody that could have, let this boil up, and then finally he was like, okay, I'm done. Like, he didn't necessarily go out and do all of this, esoteric training that we would assign to him now.
But then at the same time, you say he's an ordinary citizen. It, like Harvey Dent points out, that is Wayne Manor within the kind of city limits? That is he really an ordinary citizen with all this wealth, all this money, all this access to technology? Is he, in a way, what people sometimes perceive as, say, America with a kind of intervention around the world? Is this, well, we've got all this money and power, we need to go use it, and we'll go do it, and we're going to make the difference? And then that kind of maybe ties back into the political views that people do have about Batman.
But then he swings in here and kicks the gun out of his hand. Who else was going to be there to save Commissioner Gordon? Come on, man. Nobody.
Well, I think, Lee, with what you were talking about earlier with like casting an unknown, about how you can project your own image of Bruce Wayne, I think that's what we do with a lot of superheroes, and especially Batman, is that Batman has morphed throughout time so much. I feel like whatever we are, whatever we value, we project onto this superhero. Like with Batman, he's a billionaire, so most people would go like, oh, like he's a Republican, but he doesn't care about the little guy. But yes, he does. He's like he cares about the little guy. That's why he's doing this, and that's why he donates so much of his fortune. And so you can go back and forth, and you can project yourself onto him. And I think that's really what it boils down to.
Yeah, and he's always the Batman of the time as well, isn't he? That when you look at like Dark Knight Rises, even the corruption that John talked about excellently with New York and everything, that he's always a Batman of a time battling the issues really that we all face.
Now, right here, we have made it through this entire film without mentioning the fact that there's another Star Wars connection, that he just killed Porkins. So it's important that people realize that, if you haven't realized that up to this point, that Red 6 from the original Star Wars just got killed by Jack Napier. So,
and did you just realize that Batman is faster than a speeding bullet? Because he brings his arm up in time to block a bullet. That's pretty impressive.
No, he was just able to. No, he was able to anticipate. Napier telegraphed it.
Yeah, anticipate a shot coming from a gun. I'm sorry, it's too fast. He's not Flash.
He's Batman.
No, he's not.
Batman.
No. See, it's like when somebody punches you. If you know how to look at their body language, you know where that punch is going to come from. So Batman isn't moving faster than the bullet. He's just like, shot's going to go here. So like he just knows where it's going to go because Napier's body language. So trust me, I've had many years to reason this out, and that is what I'm going with.
Okay, the bat suit. We got to talk about the bat suit.
Why would you have a reflective symbol?
Actually, okay, let's talk about the symbol first. Okay, the symbol on his chest is different from every single piece of promotional material out there, including the cover and including the symbol that we see at the beginning of the frickin' movie. Anyway, I will never really know why, I guess. But how did this suit? What did you guys think about the suit when it first came on in the 80s? What do you think? How do you think it holds up today? Like, I just got done playing some Arkham Knight on my Xbox One, and you can actually put on the 1989 Batman costume for your character. They put so much emphasis into the detail. It looks like Keaton in the costume, and it just feels so amazing. Anybody who hasn't done that yet needs to do that, because they have skins for almost every single Batman. But I think the 1989 one is my favorite for this game. But what did you guys think of the suit?
Iconic. It's as simple as that. I don't think it's the best Batman suit. I don't think it's the most realistic, but it's the most iconic, and that's what you want with a movie like this. That I think when we probably all think of a bat suit in our head, it is probably the 1989 one, isn't it?
Yeah.
No.
Well, no. Think of the gear shift though that this marks, and that's why it's iconic. Is because up to this point, including Superman, it's always been tights. It's always been what it looks like in the comic books, and this was a commitment to the desire for quote-unquote realism. Movie realism is never completely real, but it satisfied the thought of it's sculpted so you could understand why somebody would think this would look like a creature in the shadows, and it was armor, which spoke directly to the first question anybody's going to have, which is, how is he going to get through people with guns? And like, that is why... Now, I agree with, basically I'm just agreeing with Lee that it's not the best Batman outfit, but it is such a complete gear shift from what came before that, I mean, it was mesmerizing. I can tell you that, like, my friends, we were completely obsessed with it, absolutely obsessed with that suit. And yeah, we knew he couldn't turn his head, but it still looked so cool.
I think for the time period, it's great. Like, I do. I think for the time period, it's great, and it's well thought out. And I like the idea of the fact that you've thought through Batman probably needing to be in armor and not in tights, basically. I don't really like the suit anymore. What I kind of tend to think of as a Batman, when I think of Batman, I kind of think of like a Jim Lee drawing. But for me, that's what I think of as Batman. And so that really didn't come to life to me until Batman v Superman, and that look is what I think of what Batman should look like. So, but I appreciate what they're doing here. Like, I can see contextually and everything. I like it, and for the time, it's great. It just, to me, it doesn't hold up as much anymore. And I don't have as much nostalgia either tied up in this as you guys do. So I'm just kind of looking at it more from the aspect of, yeah, I can appreciate for the time, but I can also be critical and say it's not great.
But even speaking strictly from like a production and costume design aspect, like it belongs to the voice of this movie. I mean, I think that's where the real success
definitely
is that the blue and gray, the black and gray, that type of thing doesn't speak to this movie. That, like, everybody loves to talk about this is the moment where things went dark. And, you can debate that point back and forth, but that suit, the all black, like the relentless black of it all. And, the fact that he, put the eyeliner around his eyes so that only his eyes popped. Like, it's so, I don't know. I think it's such, just from a costume design perspective, taking apart all of the other stuff that has to do with, considerations of the character and the armor and all of that stuff from a production design, costume design perspective, it's just brilliant. It's spot on. Ringwood, the makeup and costume design for this. I remember this was the first year I watched the Oscars where I was like, what the hell is this? Because they did not give what I felt was proper recognition for what they achieved with this movie. But that's my take on it.
Lee, now you said that the this costume wasn't your favorite. What would you say is your favorite Bat costume?
It's hard to say. I love the 60s one, the Adam West one. There's something for me that the 93 one for me. We've touched upon about like kind of where we were at the time. Like, I never saw this film until kind of the late 90s. I'd seen Batman Returns forever, and I'd seen this always kind of bits and pieces, but I was too young to be able to buy the video. It was a 15 here in the UK. So it was a movie that I kind of knew bits and pieces of. I didn't know it as a whole. And for me, that, like, Batman, I'm not a big comic book reader, but, like, Batman has always been the character that I gravitate towards too. I love that. I used to run home from school and we used to get reruns of the 60s cartoon series on Channel 4 here in the UK. So I used to run home and I'd watch it. Like, it was the best thing I could watch as a young kid was these Batman TV show, the Adam West one. And then we had the cartoon series, which I just loved. So I've always loved that style. I think the Dark Knight costume is probably the one I love the most, but I've got such a huge place in my heart for those 60s and 90s ones. There's just something about it where it takes me back, and that's the nostalgia value that trumps all reason sometimes, doesn't it?
And can I say right here with the whole seduction thing that watching this movie at the age I was with my parents for the first time, I did not enjoy that. It was like they're gonna go to sleep together. It's like, hi, Mom and Dad. Sorry about that.
I remember asking my parents that question of like, wait, what are they doing? Like, what? This is like, I said, I was like, isn't this? I remember saying like, isn't this their first date? And they're like, yes, sweetie, it is. I was like, didn't you tell me not to do that? Yes, we did.
But Batman's doing it.
Yeah, but exactly.
Now this reveal right here is, I wish they hadn't blown this in the commercial. I remember being disappointed in the commercials even back then. The reveal coming up with the Joker is because you can see his face, especially in the new remaster, just that ghostly hint in the shadows. And what's coming up here, the way he takes out Grissom is so, like, this is so classic. Like, I love this scene so much. And you know what? And again, I know that I threw shade at him before, but Palance, the way he plays this scene, you believe the fear. You believe that this is an old mob boss who realizes his double cross just backfired on him. And I love the scene for that. Like, just, and you know, the reveal coming up. So that's just me.
What was it like, John, to live through this in the 80s?
The marketing?
I said I never lived it to the kind of the 90s. But obviously I've read so much about the fever, the merchandise, people stealing posters.
My goodness.
What was it like? Like, I've seen it on the big screen since, but what was it like in 1989 to be in that cinema? What was that feeling like? I'd love to know.
The marketing run-up was insane. Like I said, they blew this reveal before the movie even came out. They blew a ton of stuff in the commercials because Warner Brothers, again, was so nervous about this movie tanking. They wanted to make sure everybody was in the seats. And, you know, people talked about the movie cost $33 million and they put so much marketing into it. And everybody was like, oh my gosh, this movie, you know, it's got to succeed or everything's going to fall. It was sort of like the birth of that craze that we're all still caught up in of like, what's the opening box office weekend and stuff like that. I can tell you that the first time I watched this, there was no Thursday night previews. And, you know, I lived in a little small town. So I saw it opening weekend. No, I saw it the Monday after it opened. And I remember the first time I watched it being so overwhelmed that just think like I didn't know how I felt about it. This was the first movie in my memory where I had to see it a second time to confirm what I thought about it coming out of it. Because you had this doubt at the end of it where you were like, did I love it or am I just convinced I'm supposed to love it? Like, how do I feel about this right now? And it wasn't until I saw it the second time, which was less than a week later, where I was like, oh yeah, no. I do. I love this. This is pretty fantastic. But you couldn't go anywhere. They had, I remember this was the first video cassette, VHS, that was released so quickly afterward because people talked about how Warner's didn't want to lose the fever. Usually you had to wait like a year for a videotape to come out. And Warner's rushed production on it. It was still playing in some theaters around me when it came out on videotape. And, you know, still ran out. I remember the day it was released, calling the video store every 30 minutes. Do you have it in yet? Do you have it in yet? And eventually the owner of the small, because Blockbuster wasn't really around in my area at that time, like the owner of the small video store was like, stop calling. It'll be here tonight, okay?
That sounds like
Sounds
Tristan
remarkably
with
like Tristan in a
Generations.
Star Trek Snap.
But then I remember that first videotape, putting it in, and the marketing was still relentless because it was a Diet Coke ad was the first thing that you saw. And it was Alfred supposedly calling Batman, but it was all stock footage of the Batmobile in the movie going, "Could you pick up some Diet Coke on the way home?" It's just for the taste of it, Diet Coke. And then Michael Goff goes,
completely forgot about that.
"Yep,
I completely and utterly forgot about
I'm going to be on that.
Oh my gosh.
Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, that summer, you got to keep in mind that released at the same time as this, you have Star Trek V, you have Ghostbusters 2, you have Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and Batman was the movie that everybody was talking about that summer. Everybody loved
And it was
Indiana
the highest
Jones.
grossing film of the year.
Yes. And nobody predicted that. Everybody thought that Ghostbusters 2 was going to be tops. I remember reading numerous articles where everybody was like, Ghostbusters 2 is the lock. Batman's going to find an audience, but it's not going to do as well as that. And Indiana Jones was going to be number 2. And everybody knew this was going to be a success, but the level of success of it took everybody by surprise, even though the marketing was everywhere.
Like, you read so many amazing
so
stories about it as well, that marketing. That's why I think that, like, I find Batman and even though I've discussed before, I don't enjoy Phantom Menace, I find it from a marketing and historical point of view so incredibly fascinating about how it was all marketed. And I see parallels between this and that. But for me, like, you read the stories that at conventions that people, it was the same thing as Phantom Menace, that they made VHS copies at conventions of the trailer that people would buy for $25 so they could watch the trailer over and over again. That people were going in to see films, calling up the theaters, when are you showing the trailer? And they would go in, watch the Batman trailer, and then straight go back out. That those iconic Batman posters that we all can think of straight away, that they were all around town in bus shelters, and people were smashing them, stealing the posters, and they would have to repeat as everyone was just stealing them. That it really was a frenzy that they worked themselves up to. That, like, it's amazing.
And look
Now,
at
with
this. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that with this scene, I'm sure that this is a shared experience with a lot of people of, around my age, is that I had a lot of great memories of watching this movie with my father. And this is one of those scenes that I've only seen a handful of times because this was always fast forwarded, when I was watching it with my parents. Like, my dad was always quick with the fast forward button. Yeah, it was always thought that this was way too much, like seeing a burnt corpse and everything like that, because I watched it probably way too young.
You must never have got
They
to see
fast forward that part.
Hope.
Yeah, about to say.
Say that again, Lee.
I said you probably had a Phantom episode 4 skipped for you a few times then when Luke gets back to his house.
Oh yeah, no, yes, yeah, we did.
Really?
He always fast forwarded that. Yes.
Oh, see, I would have thought that would have been an exception because, or like a different case, because in this you see the corpse get made, as opposed to like Owen and Beru. Like, it's still sort of abstract because they're already done, well done by the time you see them. Whereas this, you see the guy actually get cooked. But okay, wow, really?
Reminds me of those documentaries where people remove all the sex and violence from movies and just, like, they have it like it's almost all out of sync. I can't remember which group of, I think was it the Mormons, that there's a documentary all about this Mormon video shop that edits out all the sex, violence, language, all these different things so that people can watch the movies. So it kind of strikes me as something a bit similar to that.
Now, something you'll notice with Bob, and I don't know if it carries through all of his henchmen or just most of them, but if you notice, the Joker's henchmen all seem to have some sort of facial scarring or deformity about them throughout the movie. Except I think possibly Lawrence, who's the tall guy with the mustache.
Lawrence
is the only one I think doesn't. Yes. But this scene too, the way Nicholson plays this is so beautiful. that grease them now. Like when he's talking to the corpse, again, with another director, this is a very disturbing scene. With Burton and Nicholson working, it's honestly kind of funny. I mean, It really kind of
You always
is.
read how much Jack Nicholson was involved actually in the movie. You almost think of him sometimes as having almost a producer element, that they were allowed to improvise, they were allowed to have a say within the script, and you can see it in moments like this that you can imagine it being on paper maybe something slightly different, and Jack Nicholson going in, I've got this idea, what do you think? And a real collaborative effort between all the cast.
But even the way he kills him with the joy buzzer that fries him to death, that's sort of a zany way to go out.
That's the thing that I think that's the beauty of this Joker version. It's like a lot of people say that this Joker version really only exists in this movie. Like this is not the Joker of the comics. This isn't a Joker that we see later on. And I partially agree and partially disagree with that, because there's so many elements that are just so spot on with the comics, like when he has the newspaper with the blood and he just like smacks it across and then smears it, and then the joke buzzer that actually kills somebody, like when he's just laughing to himself for no reason, he's like ooh, ooh, this, it is so, it's the Joker that I know and the Joker that I was raised with on the comics, and so I respect it.
Now, as much as I have as I praised the costume design earlier, this beret is just awful. I mean, this I think is just like her prom dress. It's like, what were you guys thinking? I mean, come on.
We have yet to reach the beauty of the 90s costume design.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Go big or go home in the 80s.
But if you think about it too, Gotham City is this, really rugged, tough, difficult town, a lot of crime. And Bruce Wayne, though, is walking to one of the worst sections of town to lay down this rose, and like there's nobody on the street even, like there's nobody walking around, like there's nobody to be afraid of. So it's just sort of, I don't know, I think it's sort of interesting to me. But laying the roses, this was always, I thought, a beautifully composed shot, because it's the one dash of color in the entire thing.
Rushing, I'd be interested to find out what you think about the origins or lack thereof of origins of Bruce Wayne becoming Batman. How did you think that was handled in this movie?
It's interesting that we don't, get the iconic scene, especially since you're introducing Batman to a generation of people film-wise. You've never seen that on screen, the Pearl scene. It's an interesting call not to go there, even maybe in a quick flashback or something.
But they do.
Well, they do go to it later. I mainly meant they do. We do see it as a flashback.
Okay, you're catching me because I haven't seen this movie in like 15 years, so I don't remember crap
Spoilers.
about it. But I don't know. I mean, it was interesting to not have it at the beginning.
That's mainly my question.
But I mean, yeah, if they put it in later, I'm off my game today because I haven't seen this movie in forever. So I just keep thinking that Michael Keaton looks like Billy Joel. So
He does. So what's your thoughts then,
okay.
Russian? Then obviously we've probably all watched this a bit more recently than you. What's your thoughts as you're watching this just now? Like, what kind of feelings are being evoked in you? Kind of followed on from being that. I know you've seen like Batman v Superman 8-10 times.
Yeah.
Like, how does that kind of influence what you've kind of come out of recently watching to kind of going back to 89?
yeah, I'm kind of bored right now in the movie.
Well, Tim Burton would agree with you, Rushing.
Yeah, I feel like this is really, really, really slow. Like we're just kind of like, there's not a lot going on, and I don't know. But that again, I'm just coming from a completely different perspective than you guys. So,
But doesn't that speak though to the way comic book movies have changed? Is that this is a character piece?
Legitimately, yes.
This is building character as opposed to being an action movie.
I don't know how good of a job it's doing building the characters, though. I'd throw a challenge flag on that, because I don't think that so far I'm all that interested. The Joker feels so campy now to me that I'm just it's not all that interesting.
Is he still campy when he spears the guy in the neck?
I throw a feather dart on your challenge flag.
They took the Joker from the TV show, honestly, and brought him into this. I feel like he feels so much more like the the TV show Joker than he does what I feel like the comics do, or
Yeah, I'd agree with
what
you
we get
there.
later in the film.
But
So-
see-
but again, historically, that makes more sense for this time period. So I'm not trashing the film for that. I'm just saying that when I watch it now, does it hold up? I don't think it does as much. I don't think that if you got, like, you sat down a 16-year-old kid and asked them to watch this film, they'd enjoy it half as much as you did when you were.
I hate to break your heart, but I took my nephew when he was about 10 years old and he'd never seen Star Wars, and I sat him down and he said this is boring, and he didn't like that at all.
Yeah, so I mean, it's
like
interesting.
you can play the informed by time period thing, but it's I don't know. I mean, like, this is much more like a dramatic build toward the big action, because once the action starts in this movie, it really just keeps going. To speak to your point about the Joker being influenced by the TV show, I agree. But in the 1980s comics, the Joker had just started his turn toward absolute insanity around this time period. Like, it wasn't complete, though.
I have to cut in real quick because I have, like I said before, I have such fond memories of this movie and watching it with my father. I remember I was a wee lad, and when Joker says, "This town needs an enema," I immediately turned to my dad and I said, "Dad, what's an enema?" Without skipping a beat, he said, "It's a new idea, son. He thinks Gotham needs a new outlook on things." I was like, "Oh, okay."
You wait a minute. He wouldn't tell you what an enema was?
No, for the longest time, that's what I thought an enema was.
Here's the big difference between your dad and my dad. Dad, what's an enema? He told me what an enema was. And I was like, oh my God, that's terrible. He's like, yep, it's pretty awful.
See, what's interesting about this, though, to me, as we're talking about the Joker, is so The Killing Joke is 1998. So it's 1 year before this movie comes out. And that Joker is just
88.
like insanity. Like, that's one of the most iconic Jokers that's ever been created. And truly, truly, truly scary. Because he is out of his gourd, anarchist. And so this Joker, when you, even time-wise, when you talk about what's going on in the comics, what you're getting here, this feels so much more like the 60s television show than it does what we're getting in the comics.
Killing Joke comes out in 88. The Joker has a history, a mental history with the audience longer than that. So, yes, 88, like I said, the Joker has just started his turn, but it hasn't cemented yet. So, basically, Warner's, Burton, the screenwriter, everybody has to juggle this notion of, like, they can't, okay, if they bring the Joker from The Killing Joke, which was released while this was already in production, right? If they bring that Joker in, again, that's a hard R. And I would argue that there are elements of that in this movie that another director would have brought forward, that Burton chooses to go lighter with that. But at the same time, the thing is, I don't like the idea that somehow freezes this Joker in amber and makes him a curio from the time period. I think that this Joker is still a very valid interpretation even now. Just because he's not, gone. I mean, he burns a guy alive. He burns a guy alive. He murders somebody in front of a large crowd of people. Completely unafraid. He hits them, and then he also poisons the whole town. So, like, there's still. It's very much about scale. The Killing Joke Joker and later interpretations of Joker become a much more personal kind of evil, which speaks, I think, to the shifting mindset of audiences and stuff like that. The Joker at this time is still speaking to an audience that is viewing evil, especially when they go to the movies, on a grander scale. So he's frying people, he's poisoning people, he's doing all of these things, but it's done in such a context that it's not that intensely personal evil that the Joker later embraces.
And I think as well that we only have to maybe go back 8 years ago, just prior to The Dark Knight, when Heath Ledger was cast, and I can proudly say I was for the casting, but there was a lot of people that were like, it's pointless doing this. That even though this film was nearly 20 years old by that stage, that people were like, you can't top Jack Nicholson. That's the ultimate interpretation of the Joker. That was what a lot of fans were saying. That was a lot of what the feedback is. Whether you can argue that people on the internet are always full of it, but there was a lot of that at the time that, you know, that this still couldn't be beaten 20 years later. And then when we get the Heath Ledger Joker, you could almost see the shift straight after that. People would watch this movie and then go, well, that's not really the Joker. The Joker's more this Heath Ledger style. That, oh, this one's a bit cheesy now for me. That it was almost just completely, there was that 360-degree turn that for 20 years people were batting in this corner that this was the best, this was the most iconic. And then, nope, completely changed. And then people were almost trashing this performance because it wasn't the 2008 version.
Okay, those pictures of the models, you know, like who were had the Joker toxin and were smiling. In those pictures, they were standing up for the photo.
Of course.
Okay, so how is that possible?
Of course they were. They were. You know what? They were troopers to the end. They died in their model poses, and rigor mortis set in while they were smiling.
Something
So
you were
perfect.
saying, Lee, and I think is really important is that, you know, so many people think of certain characters as iconic and they can't be topped. I mean, God, the same thing has been happening with Superman since Chris Reeve. And I think people have, for the most part, kind of been stuck in the sense that nobody can be Superman. No Superman film should be unlike a Chris Reeve film. And we've Batman, it's been different because we've had so many iterations of him. Superman's like we had Chris Reeve, and then that was it for the longest time. And so Batman, it's been different because, you know, we had Keaton's Batman, and then it was Val Kilmer, and then it was George Clooney, and then it was, you know, Christian Bale, and now it's Ben Affleck. And so there's been so much more change. And, you know, the Joker was one of those things where they hadn't redone the Joker. And so if it sits long enough in the consciousness of people, I think it does become so ingrained, and so the change becomes scarier. Whereas Batman himself in the Batman films, it's like we've just had more of those come out, and so we're kind of used to there being change, almost like James Bond. It's like, you know, we're used to James Bond changing. So when that happens, we're willing to give the new guy more of a chance, unless he's blonde, and then we have a fit. But you know what I'm saying? Like it's very interesting how that's happened in comic book films. And so, you know, it'll be very interesting once that change happens for Marvel. Like what happens when you bring in a new Iron Man and it's not Robert Downey Jr. or Captain America or anything like that, because we've had so many years of one consistent character being played by the same person. So in films, it's like, you know, we have to be open to that because there's only so long these guys can play immortal characters that keep being reinvented over and over again. You know, you're 75 years old in the comics, it's not really the same character.
But the thing is, what I will say is that nobody has had the courage, whether it's Nolan and Ledger or anybody else, nobody has had the courage yet. I would be very interested to see if with Suicide Squad, the Joker gets his own commercial again. Because to this day, when I watch commercials, I can go, love that Joker. And it's the greatest thing ever.
It was so perfect. I also love how these newscasters, like,
Yes,
without
they look
using
awful.
Yeah, it's just like the human race would just be done. Like if we didn't have shampoo and and facial soap, like we would have like pimples the size of boils on our nose. We don't know how to comb our hair. You know, we're just like, oh my god, if only I could have some products.
And I still no, but I want to say that I love the mayor anytime he appears in any scene because he looks like Ed Koch, and that's obviously on purpose. And Ed Koch was the mayor of New York City for so long that I that's another thing that speaks to Gotham being a New York analog in this, is having the mayor be Ed Koch basically is just brilliant.
Oh, look at that sweater he's got on.
I know.
I love it.
He has like some sort of ascot under the shirt that's under the sweater.
That's a cravat.
A cravat. I'm sorry. Yes,
Cravat,
our
excuse me.
friend from across the ocean has corrected me because I don't know my neckwear properly. Daddy's going to make some art, darling.
One of the
love it.
greatest scenes coming up, I think, in Batman history is this scene right here.
And God bless Prince for insisting on creating a new song for it, because they were going to use a different song, and Prince was like, "No, let me make a song for it," and that's what the whole album sort of like sprang out of. And I love
This is
that.
the one part of the movie I really dislike. I really don't
What?
like the Prince stuff.
What?
No.
What?
I'm sorry. I don't
How?
like it.
Kidding me?
How?
I don't like it.
This is insane. This is great.
No, it's one part that I like all the stuff, but it's when the fact that it's like the music, and it's like I know Tim Burton wasn't a fan of it either, so I've got him in my corner. So we can just imagine Tim and Helen LeBon Carter, because obviously they're a team, are right next to me on this couch. No, I'm not a fan of the Prince music. Like I know there's a lot of this movie is dated for the 80s and 80s styles, but that part like really takes me out in a way that I really dislike. I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry.
The scene is so much insane
No.
fun. Oh,
It's
geez.
insane.
Matt hasn't
but
seen
I
it in
don't
10
like
years.
it.
Matt, don't
I'll
comment
let you
yet.
know
I want you to watch
as
it.
we get through the scene what I think. But so far, I'm bored.
Oh, for Pete's sake.
Somebody hasn't spoken in 15 seconds. Rushing is bored.
Oh, how dare you have a questioning moment?
It's Tim Burton's handwriting.
Yeah. Looks like your handwriting, Tristan.
What I'm finding about the film is that it's not capturing Batman-wise. Like, it's not a very good Batman film. It's a good Joker film, but so far it's not a very good Batman film.
That's actually a criticism that was leveled at it back at the time. But I think that what I think that speaks to more is, let's go back a year to Die Hard, right? Die Hard doesn't work without an incredible villain played by Alan Rickman, right? I think that this movie definitely needed somebody to play an incredible Joker, which Nicholson does, to give it the weight. And I mean, come on. You don't like this scene, Lee? Are you nuts?
I don't mind the scene.
Let's broaden our minds.
Lawrence?
No. A beautiful tribute to the Purple Prince, though.
But the thing is, this is so great because the Joker is motivated specifically by the fact that he found himself so beautiful and he got physically deformed, and that's one of his motivating factors. So this speaks specifically to the character degradation and the trauma that he goes through. He wants to destroy everything beautiful.
All the visual stuff is amazing. It's the music that I really struggle with. That when the music starts, it's like...
So what would you play then? What would you play then?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I would
So
just
you just have dead silence?
I would just have them creating their own energy, kicking about. I don't think there needs to be necessarily a music and a music montage. It's just...
Okay.
No.
Here's the thing. I know that it's. I'm not trying to criticize you, Lee, but I feel like it's a very common argument to say, "Oh, this is so 80s. This is so 90s. This is so whatever." But the thing is it advantageous to us as viewers to remove the movie from its own time? I mean, every movie is a product of its time.
Yeah, and I've said that many a time that I consider all the movies as also like periods of their time, but there are elements that with the Prince soundtrack that even at the best of times, even if there was in Batman v Superman or James Bond, that someone started like a musical sing-song to a cassette tape, it's just one of those things that's like, oh, I find it takes me out. And I think this is a great scene that would be better without the Prince soundtrack. I'm not a big Prince fan, which probably informs my opinion on the musical choice.
So now that we've gotten through the music, though, I'll say that what's great about this movie is that, yes, it is encapsulated for its time, and I think it works. I think the music and what's going on here, the complete campiness of what's happening, like, it fits the feeling of this time period very well. Does it work now? That's a different story, but I think it works in 98 and 89, and that's really what mattered at the time. So,
but see, here's what I'll throw out to that is that what makes it work for me still, like that moves it out of that whole, oh, this is 1980s, this is Prince, whatever, is that the Joker comes in and they're doing first and foremost, they've basically gassed the entire place, right? And then he comes in and plays a silly song while he wrecks the joint. And then he comes in, and then there's another gear shift where he sits down and he's trying to be suave and debonair with this, with this woman to be like, oh, well, I enjoy your work as an artist, but maybe I could show you this.
Hello, beautiful.
Right. There's so much gear shifting going on in this scene alone that shows that the Joker is just all over the place. That is, he is every single emotion happening at once. Like, I just think that's what makes it work.
Also, side note, the painting that he didn't want Bob to destroy is actually at the Art Institute of Chicago. And I every time I see it, I'm just like, kind of like this one.
And I forget the title of the piece. Do you remember the title of the piece?
Oh, crap. It's something meat, hanging of meat.
Okay. Well, you know what, audience? You can go Google it.
It's figure with meat.
Go to the Google. Yeah.
No, I just told you. It's figure with meat.
Figure with meat. Okay. And that.
Hopefully you're listening to this podcast after the watershed.
And, I love this reveal, too, where it's like...
Oh, that was fast-forwarded, too.
Really? No.
That little bit, yeah, it was
You're
fast-forwarded.
kidding me.
No.
This reveal is so great. Oh,
This is turning
man.
into family therapy podcasting.
Yeah, I don't think you understand how young I actually was when I first saw this. I was way too young. I was born in 86, okay? This came out in 89.
Oh, no, but the thing is, okay, you know what? We'll go offline. I'll tell you about my little nephew who was much younger. Not much younger, but he was younger than that. He was about a year and a half old, and we just played this movie for him on a loop because he adored it, and it let us go off and play games while we were babysitting him. That was good times. But
Social services will be paying a visit to you tomorrow. Then?
He turned out just fine, and he and his wife are expecting a child, and he still loves me. So, and he's still a Batman fan. I'll point that out.
Well, there you go.
So there you go.
Get a whiff of my posy.
Yeah, and this is a great moment too. The splash.
Oh, yeah.
I'm melting. I'm melting.
I love how, why is Vicky Vale, why does she care? Why is she concerned? Also, what did she think the water was going to do?
I know, right? Yeah.
But I think it's almost distract her that she's thrown the water, just that's something to do. And then the fact that he kind of puts on this kind of performance kind of then distracts her that she's maybe trying to make an escape. But
I love this.
The entrance of Batman.
But and also imitated in the movie Dick Tracy a year later to much less good effect. Dick Tracy tried to capitalize on this success, and it was awful. Not the least of which because it had Madonna in it.
And here comes one of the best lines in the entire movie.
Oh, yeah. Where does he get those wonderful toys? Yeah.
Oh, man.
No, this one I love. Get in the car. Which one? And then that reveal of the machine is just like, yes. And I still have a miniature of that Batmobile.
But John, it's got guns on the front. Batmobile shouldn't have guns on the front. But
he's about to kill a lot of people in this scene. So
no, he doesn't kill anybody in this.
But Batman doesn't kill.
No, these henchmen come back. He doesn't start.
It's
he
later.
doesn't start really killing until the end. They've pushed Batman over the edge.
And the one thing I love about this movie, and that's different from say now, is that we see all these things that the Joker's doing. That he's got the vans with the Joker prints on it. We've got Joker filming TV adverts and making product design, all these different things. See, if that was nowadays, you would get people going, "Excuse me, how is this possible? What is he doing?" In 1989, people just accept that things necessarily and it kind of ties into obviously Batman. How did he become Batman? People just bought into it. That's the character. That's the way it is. They don't have that thing that they do nowadays that everything's got to have a reason, an origin, whether it's down to the schemes, to how they can build their trucks and everything. It was able to be a lot more freer with what they wanted to do.
I completely agree, and I'm so glad you mentioned that because I've been thinking this whole time of, audiences now, they can't go through anything without being spoon-fed reasons.
Yes,
everything has to be set up. And it's like he's Batman. Who cares? Okay, he's Batman, and I'm in Batman. Okay, cool, that works.
John, I'm gonna call hypocrisy on that because I have heard you, in when you were ripping Batman v Superman, a new one. You were talking about how the contextual knowledge was. You're gonna call a flag on that.
Totally different argument. Totally different argument because motivations for the characters in this Batman are still self-contained to this specific work. Okay?
All right.
There's nothing that needs to be brought in from an outside work to say, oh, well, this Batman has gone through this journey by this point. To speak to this being a character work, you still get the reasoning for the characters to believe and act the way that they do throughout the film. And this is, granted, this is at the beginning. This starts the whole comic book movie revolution. This is a much more linear and digestible plot and exercise in editing and direction than a lot of later stuff came. Like even your beloved Blade Trinity, which stinks. There you go.
Please don't, like, for the listeners at home, please don't refer to it as my beloved Blade Trinity.
It's your beloved Blade Trinity.
Tristan's one of his favorite comic book movies, better than any David Fincher movie. He loves Blade Trinity, and we'll leave it on. We've got to move on from this.
If you let him choose, yes, okay, you're right, Lee. You're right. We'll move on.
One of the things that I like about this sensibility, though, I mean, this movie is silly and whatnot, but what I like about the sensibility is that this was a time period we could go to a comic book movie and differentiate. Like, this movie takes itself seriously inside its own world and universe, but, like, that's all it had to be, and I that's one of the things that I've really enjoyed so much about the X-Men franchise is that they have been able to keep that and not get so bogged down in, well, how did that happen? Why can this happen? And why do the villains have this and whatever? It's like, it's a comic book movie. So stop trying to put your real world logic on a comic book movie. Of course, the universe is different. We've got Batman running around. We've got mutants running around. We've got it's like, let some of that stuff go and enjoy the movie for what it's supposed to be, which is a comic book come to life, which means that the physics, the reality, where Joker gets his Joker, van and cars, who cares? It's just, let that stuff go and enjoy for what it is. And I like that this movie, that's one of the things that's in its favor, is that it does that. It doesn't ask you to put real world logic on Gotham City and Batman and what's happening. And that's fun, because that's what we do when we read comic books too.
Yeah. I think it's really fascinating in a way that I kind of, a bit nostalgic for a lot of these kind of Batman movies at times, that for all their flaws and pros and cons, that it was enjoyable to be able to watch. You could dip into these Batman movies, I remember seeing Forever, then Batman and Robin, and you really needed to have seen the other ones to inform your others, because some of us, we'd see these out of sync, and it would pretty much always make sense that, yeah, you had to know kind of how Robin came to join them in Batman and Robin, but they were always kind of self-contained enough, and you could go to the cinema and go, oh, I've not seen the other two, and I think I saw Batman Forever, having only seen Batman Returns, and you could enjoy it, have a great time, and you weren't really coming out going, oh, I wonder how this ties into all these things. They were self-contained because the audiences were relatively self-contained. We didn't have access to super box sets. We didn't have the money to afford all the 10 previous Marvel movies to be able to see the new one to make sense of everything. And I kind of miss this sometimes, to enjoy a movie on its own, and that's what it was.
Yeah. And I will also say that the music cue for the flight of the Batmobile here is almost caused me to flip a car over one time, because it came on and I was driving my little hatchback and I was like, oh yeah. And I gun it and I'm like, Burr. And then I came across this turn and I'm like, and it was this weird dissociative moment where my body is sitting there driving the car and my brain goes into another realm and it's like, you're about to go off the road, young man, and you're probably going to die. And it's all because of Batman music. And I was like, oh. Long story short, I managed not to flip the car over or die, but I learned a very important lesson about listening to music while driving on that day.
I think we've all been there.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so we're in the Batcave. This is by far my favorite version of the Batcave.
Hands down, absolute best.
Absolute best. I mean, this is. I mean, I'm a huge Nolan fan. I love all things Nolan. I love the trilogy, but that Batcave was so disappointing.
Well, yes, it was more a cave than a grand set piece like this. But the one thing I want to ask about this is how much of an a-hole was that one bat that was put in the cage? All the other bats are up there hanging out. That bat must have been nuts, because why is he in the cage? I don't get it.
I don't know. Nowadays, there'd be an expanded universe novel about this,
they would
this bat. We would be able to look forward to his sequel movie in 2012.
He'd have a spin-off novel.
I do like this cave. I think next to for me, my personal favorite is the new Batman v Superman cave.
That's a pretty good one.
I really like this cave. It feels like comic book come to life, and I like that it's not so over the top that we get later on in these Batman films.
Like in Batman Forever, when there's an intruder and everything activates.
Oh, for Pete's sake.
Intruder alert.
Yeah.
Intruder alert.
Let's not talk about some of those films.
It doesn't have to make sense as well that... Wait, how is there a big pillar that's the Batmobile has to land on that? They just go, this is it. Fine. Not a problem. Whereas with, say, Nolan, for example, they need to make it realistic to go, well, this is the universe. We couldn't have really kind of that. With them, they're just like, it's like the comic book, and people are just happy to accept that. I miss that attitude.
I think that this scene, though, is the first one where the costume, the advantages of the costume design really pop, because they are able to use the shadows to such effect around the eyes and around his movements. And even the light that comes across the eyes are so it's used to such great effect in this. And then, of course, Vicky Vale waking up, and she's got a teddy bear.
How adorable.
What do you think that nowadays there would be a spin-off novel about the history of the teddy bear and what his name was? So
maybe.
There's probably another room that, who knows? And if this was nowadays, she would be sitting in her underwear or something along those lines as well.
And she'd have an extremely large booty.
Yeah. She'd be played by Kim Kardashian.
How dare you say that name on this podcast?
Here's a question for you about Kim Basinger. Do you think that she is successful in this role? Or do you think that it would have been better had their original casting choice, who broke her arm, Sean Young? Do you think Sean Young would have been better?
I'm a big Sean Young fan. I like a lot of her earlier stuff, but I also know that she is sometimes crazy to work with from the stories that I've heard, if those stories are true. I think Kim Basinger does a great job. I think Kim Basinger excels. I think she succeeds. But where the failure is the writing for that character, I think.
What do you think fails in the writing for her?
I feel like this character has no real discernible qualities other than she's the reporter. I don't think there's anything unique about her that only that only Kim Basinger could play, or that only Vicky, like that. I don't know, that screams Vicky Vale. It just feels like you could throw in any actress, or actually change the name to anything, and we would believe it. Am I alone in this?
No, I don't. The thing is, that has always been something that sort of irked me about this, is that the reason I asked about the chemistry earlier when they were in the armory scene is because when I was younger and now, I don't completely buy the chemistry between Bruce Wayne and Vicky Vale. It feels like it's there because it serves the plot, as opposed to being... Now, I'm about to eat my words, because I think this is the one scene when he goes over to the apartment is where it does work. And I think it's because Keaton is more of his relaxed, Keaton-esque, silly Michael Keaton, as opposed to I'm Batman Michael Keaton. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. And I'm guessing that once Joker comes in, Lee is going to say, "Oh, I hate this scene. This was so boring. This was an abomination."
It's just the Prince music. Apart from Vicky Vale not having the red hair, I think the problem for me with the Kim Basinger character, Vicky Vale, is that in probably most other movies she'd be perfectly fine, but she drowns in that she's not as memorable. She doesn't stand out as much. She's a bit of a basic character compared to Bruce Wayne, the Joker, all these different characters that are so larger than life, where she's kind of normal, and where that just doesn't stand out, that she's not a star player like the rest of the team, and she just kind of gets washed away. When if someone asked me to make a list of 15 things I liked about this movie, she probably wouldn't even be in that. It's just unfortunate the way she's kind of been placed. She doesn't stand up or stand out compared to the rest of them.
Although I will say that I love this exchange where he's trying to explain things going on. He's like, people have different aspects of their personality, and you're one thing when you go this, and her immediate presumption is, oh, you're married. Like that's such a natural presumption. It makes sense, you know. Like, and that's why I say this scene is an exception to everything else.
I do think that it's really interesting for me because I don't really think that Batman had a memorable leading lady until The Dark Knight Rises.
I was
don't
just about
think
to
that
disagree
any of
completely
the
with
Dark
Batman
Knight.
leading
Disagree.
ladies have been good, really good,
opposite.
until The Dark Knight Rises, and because I don't like Michelle Pfeiffer, I don't like I guess Nicole Kidman's okay, but I don't. Again, John, I'm saying she's okay, but
No, I know.
don't
I'm
think
agreeing with you
anybody
that
really
Nicole
stood
Kidman,
out
boo.
until Anne Hathaway in The Dark Knight Rises, where I felt like she really was a foil for Batman. Like, I felt like she's the only character that I felt like really stood up to Batman. Otherwise, I'm not really impressed with any of the choices because Katie Holmes doesn't do it for me, and Maggie Gyllenhaal is
Okay,
Oh,
okay.
Jesus.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Gonna collapse
stop. This can't happen. I didn't hear anything that just came before that. Somebody just threw shade on Maggie Gyllenhaal and her performance
she's
as
not
Rachel
great
Dawes.
in that movie.
No,
I think
no.
she's fantastic in that movie.
Yeah, it's
I
okay
love her
for
in
you
it.
guys
Now
to be
notice
wrong.
though,
It's cool.
Notice though that the Joker has the same first line when he enters the apartment as Bruce Wayne does. Just in case anybody, they both say, "Nice apartment, lots of space."
I'm sorry, I can't move on from this. Okay, you liked Maggie Gyllenhaal?
I tried.
I like
you-
Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, I don't get it either because she's not good in that film. Like,
Oh
all
my-
I can think
oh.
of is, wait, they're fighting over Maggie Gyllenhaal? Are you kidding me?
Oh, I swear, I'm about to buy a plane ticket and come out there and kick your butt.
I like
Are you
Maggie
serious?
Gyllenhaal. Like from Donnie Darko to Secretary. When she was cast replacing Katie Holmes, I was so happy.
Well, anybody but replacing Katie Holmes is great, but
Yeah,
she
Katie Holmes
doesn't
was
do
rubbish.
anything special in that role. She's not good.
Harvey, I know these briefs backwards.
Okay,
I think she's fantastic in it. Like, I really feel sad when she dies. I really feel Bruce Wayne's pain. I think that's some really good writing. I'd love to have seen more of her, but I think that she is a fantastic. I think she does what a lot of men put on women, and it almost ties into what I see in things like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, that don't make me your one chance for like a normal life. And I see
Right.
a lot of crossover between that and that while she's maybe a normal person, that how many times in movies do we see men that big up a woman that is, perhaps like this character, that there's just nothing particularly special to fight over, but they see something in her that they hope that she can have, that she may be a normal person, nothing remotely special, but that's what they almost want from their own lives as well, that someone that's dealing with being shot at by the thugs in the court, someone that is a Batman at night, that this normal person, that's more than enough. That's what they want. That's what they're hoping to get out of their life.
Now, with we got to go to this scene. Like we got to
Yes.
we got to move to this scene and talk about this scene, because I love this how I think it's kind of rare, right, for Bruce Wayne to interact with the main villain while he's the main villain. I mean, I can't think of another time that's happened. I'm blanking on that. Where and
Well,
also
I mean-
I just
no, I was going to say maybe Ra's al Ghul in Batman Begins at the house.
yeah, but he wasn't the villain then yet. It
Okay.
wasn't established that he was the villain. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah,
But
I
okay,
think,
we got
I think I see.
in the pale moonlight. We in this scene we got the pale moonlight line. We get the, you wanna go nuts? Come on, let's get nuts. I love this scene and everything about it.
Now, the thing is, after this scene was supposed to be a horse chase. It was supposed to tie in to Alfred talking about the first horse lesson, where Bruce Wayne puts on a mask and chases the Joker through the Gotham City equivalent of Central Park, and they cut it. I believe it was filmed. But
With Sean Young.
Oh, really? Oh, is that where she injured herself?
That's where
she
hurt
injured herself
herself
a week before shooting.
Okay.
They needed someone in 2 days, at 2 days' notice when Sean Young was out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought they were actually filming it, but I guess it was just rehearsals.
Yeah, it was that was how Sean Young was injured. That she fell off a horse, and she's always like, if I managed to hold on to that horse, I could have been in one of the biggest movies of all time. I could have gone on to appear in other movies. I could have just like that moment where she fell off the horse was one of probably the biggest moments in her life.
One thing I will say that bugs me about this scene is the resolution here, with the way that the bullet has gone through the plate, the silver plate there, is that it seems to be turned around the wrong way, that it still should have in some way punctured Bruce Wayne's lung. But, hey, that's just me.
What did you guys think of that ending though? I just think that's such a hysterical note to end on.
Oh,
where,
yeah.
Like the hand just goes up and then she passes out.
It's such a comic book moment brought to life.
I know,
isn't
it's
it?
so funny. I just think this movie is so funny, but it's dark at the same time. I think that's why this is one of my favorites.
I'm with you.
For me, it sums up that the idea that you can have dark movies that, and I think Batman at its best always does that. That Batman can be dark and gritty, but it has those moments of levity that, whether you can say that's over the top or not, it's still something there to kind of lighten the mood. That a movie where it is just would be so dark, it can be a struggle. And I think sometimes they go too far in the opposite direction, too comedy, as we see with Batman Forever. Perhaps in Batman v Superman, some of that criticism that it was too dark, not enough humor. That humor is not necessarily a bad thing. You have to kind of base the humor around what the film kind of themes and vibes you're going for. But I think it works really well in this film, where it is slightly over the top. And when you get it in, say, The Dark Knight, that they have those comedy moments as well, but they're good for the film itself.
Well, I think that Batman, the films that work best are the ones where the comedy, like you were saying, Lee, works with the flow of the movie. It's not like we're just going to insert this because this is going to be funny. And like the later films, especially, Batman Forever and obviously Batman and Robin, it's just comedy for comedy's sake, and they've lost all sense of anything Batman-esque-ness. And so then you get the reaction to that, which is the Nolan films. And I think the Nolan films put the comedy in where it works, but they don't try and shove comedy in for comedy's sake. And the same thing I think for Batman v Superman. You don't just shove in comedy for the sake of comedy. You do it where it works, and that's why Alfred in Batman v Superman is the one who does most of the comedic lines, because you're not trying to make a movie what it isn't. You're doing what a movie is, and this movie knows exactly what it is. And if there's anything that can be said for it, is that Tim Burton knows exactly what he's doing in making this film, and I think that it works for this film. And that's a compliment to this movie. I don't think for me, it's not a great film, but it's consistent within itself, and that's what you want to ask from a movie, is that it be consistent within its own self and its own architecture as a movie.
Another thing that I love is the absolute, this is a time capsule of technology right before the big changes of the internet came and took everything over. The idea that the Joker could take over, just a couple of broadcast bands, that people were listening to things on the radio, that he could hijack the signal that easily, that people didn't have cell phones, that when Alfred does the search, he does it on microfiche as opposed to Google or Bing. I mean, we want to be fair here, or Yahoo.
Ask Jeeves.
Right, Dogpile. And you sit there and this movie, if there's any nostalgia aspect of it for me, true nostalgia aspect, it's that it is the last remembrance of a time before technology changed the way everything was done. This is the last huge movie where it really, where the technology is so important before that digital revolution came about, and everything's still analog here. And it's just, I don't know, like that's the one nostalgic chord that it really strikes with me. And this scene where the Joker, and earlier with the commercial, but this one especially, where he's able to take over every channel, is so cool.
Speaking of nostalgia, one of the biggest nostalgia moments of this scene for me is his outfit. For some
Very Jerry Seinfeld, isn't it?
Like, for some reason, this absolutely connected with me. There is a picture of me in kindergarten with blue jeans and a black turtleneck on, and it was solely because of this movie. And I own a black turtleneck to this day, and I always will have one in my cabinet because
Does everyone think
of
you're
this
Steve
moment.
Jobs and not Bruce Wayne?
Right, I was about to
Yes,
say,
yes.
Steve Jobs must have loved Batman.
I wore it to work on Casual Friday a couple of weeks ago, and they're just like, "Oh, are you pitching the new iPod?" And I was like, "Screw you."
And can you imagine nowadays, they're coming out of a movie called Footlight Frenzy, not Mark of Zorro. The fanboys and fangirls would have gone insane. It's supposed to be Mark of Zorro. It's not supposed to be Footlight Frenzy.
Oh, they would have lost their minds. There would
That's
have been
right.
change.org petitions. There would have been walkouts. They would have been walking on Washington because of that. Yeah.
Now, the thing that I do enjoy about this is that it's done truly like it's this is a truly effective, I think, dream sequence, because the camera angles are even more a little off, and
Kind of
the
floaty.
motion is just a little bit slower than real life.
And it's over the top as well. It's the smiles, is that kind of smile when you're like, smile, and it's like, oh, I'm the happiest
Right.
person.
We're so happy.
It's-
And
yeah.
you can believe that this is the events as remembered by a child.
Mm-hmm.
How happy everybody was before it happened. Now,
The pearls.
yep.
For the longest time, I thought young Jack Napier was Kurgan. Like when I was a kid.
that would be interesting.
What's his name? Brown or
Clancy Brown.
Clancy Brown. Yeah, I thought it was Clancy Brown for some reason. The bone structure just struck me.
The thing that I like, though, is that this was a new take on the origin story, because they'd never really tied the Joker to Batman like this previously.
Now, here's a bit of trivia for you, that this wasn't actually going to be the Joker. This was, in the script, it was the original tale. But with the writer's strike, Tim Burton always wanted to tie it into the Joker. And the writer of the script was like, no, I really disagree with this. I don't support this. Then the writer's strike happened, so Tim Burton went, change it. And then it happened. Then he couldn't be in London to see like the script being changed. So this was something Tim Burton took advantage of when there was having the writer's strike to introduce the Joker.
But see, I like
And
that
I don't
because
like it.
No, I like it because the murder isn't accidental. That like it shows again the Joker is, Jack Napier has been around, like he has a history. Like, before we meet him, before he's the Joker, that he's a small time thug at that point, and that, he goes up and he becomes, the right-hand man in the mob for the city and everything. Like, I don't know, like it's such a great, at the time there was a great deal of hullabaloo, if you will, about the fact that they tied it in that way from the fanboys that were like, oh, you can't do that. You can't have the Joker be the one that and everybody was upset that it wasn't Joe Chill and all of that type of thing. But I can tell you, from the moment I saw it, I was like, oh, that's so neat. I think it's a neat
I would
turn.
say from a storytelling perspective, it's one of those things where it's like you're connecting too much. That's how it comes off for me. It's over connected. I honestly really like the idea for the Batman origin, that it's just a random act of violence and it's a random thing that happens. And so this is a little bit over connected. It works okay in this movie, but it's still, to me, I don't love it. I don't really like the connection there. I think it's too much of a connection.
But I think it works for this film, though.
But the thing is, I think you nailed it right there.
Yeah, rushing.
Right.
I agree with you. I think we're all kind of agreeing with you there that like on a big scale, it's a random act of violence is awesome because it's why he's constantly searching. It's why he's constantly going out into the night, because his job is never finished, because there's always one more random face. But Lee, I'm like you, where in the context of this story, in the context of this movie, I think it works because I feel like what Spectre was trying to do with Blofeld, they actually achieved in this movie.
Well, I think that it just speaks to the operatic nature of everything, which gets right back to the way the movie opens with the score, or the Shakespearean influence of mirror, mirror.
These guys are okay though, right? Those guys, they're fine.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
Batman doesn't kill people.
Those guys
And
are dead.
You may think that's bombs that the Batmobile's dropping. No, they're balloons. This Batmobile's nothing
It's
like
red
the Batmobile
balloons.
we've just seen with the guns.
He
Yeah.
just
Nothing
killed
alike.
everybody who was in
No,
in that
he's
building.
it just dropped off some holidays for them that they can go off to anywhere in the USA. You know, it's fine. That wasn't killing.
And as a callback to one of the shows that I'm on, Words with Nerds, we actually speculated how could they possibly have that much production time and turn everything around as fast as they did in Axis Chemicals. We theorized that there were actually child laborers trapped at the bottom of Axis Chemicals. So Batman actually gave them this what we called the sweet release of bat death. They were all praying for death because they were chained to the machines.
Oh, I think you mean younglings.
Yes, right. Younglings makes it PG-13.
It usually starts with you guys drinking, so I can see how you've come to this conclusion in your
Well,
show.
and that's what we just had, the scene where Batman is looking up and you see him in the costume in the light, and that's where I think the costume doesn't hold up, is when he's not in the shadows, when he's not in the dark, because you can see it. Just, especially the cowl, to me, I don't like it.
They actually graded it higher for the home release because people were complaining it was so dark in the theater.
And I love this. I love the parade. So wait a minute. Lee, if you didn't like Party Man, how do you feel about the parade, about the balloons?
With the parade, I haven't an issue because it feels more a realistic response, that it is a bit over the top. It is a stupid parade. I'm fine with that. It's just that one scene with them kicking about the music in the museum.
Something that was in the comic book adaptation that was filmed, if you look very carefully and zoom in the way I have, as somebody with no life will often do. And the Joker has a line in the museum where she says, "What do you want?" And he says, "My face on the $1 bill." And these dollar bills, it was cut. I don't know why it was cut, but they actually have shots showing that this is fake money, that it's the Joker on the $1 bill. He achieves his goal during this parade. I have no idea why they cut that out, because it would have been so awesome to see that on
so
screen.
Joker. It is an ultimate joke. He brings the entire city to his parade because he's going to give away free money. And he gives away free fake money because he thinks it's hysterical. People are like killing themselves to get this kind of cash, and it's all because Joker loves messing with Gotham.
Yeah, and I'll never understand why they cut it out. I never will.
Yeah, it also always bothered me, like when the dollar bill landed on his hat. Like my OCD nature, I was just like, dude, you got something on your hat?
Yeah,
Joker, you still got something on your hat?
Continuity guy, get rid of that. Come on. Take care of that. Take the pictures. Gotham's greed.
Okay, side note. Okay, so we saw Knox and Vicky Vale looking at the what's that thing called? The newspaper filmy thingy?
Microfiche.
Thank you. So like they're looking at that. Why on earth does Knox not know that story? How does he not know about
Maybe
the Waynes?
Knox only moved to Gotham 10 years ago. You don't know that. We don't get a full history.
I think there it is. It's on his head. God dang it.
And
Take
you
it
can
off.
tell that
Shake
it's
your
not
head.
a real dollar bill.
Yeah.
You can actually tell.
It almost looks like Lincoln from here.
And you can also tell that, with the line, "And where is the Batman? He's at home washing his tights." You can tell that the script was written before the costume design was completed.
Yeah. But I think it's also a nice wink and a nod to the Batman of the 60s, the Batman we all kind of knew.
Yeah. Yeah.
Winged
absolutely.
battle flies through night and finds me ready. I've always loved that line. I think that's just a fantastic line. And again, gets to the Shakespearean part.
I love Goon Bob.
I'm catching myself because I just from here on out, from the parade on out, it is nonstop story and action and fun, and I'm catching myself because I'm just watching it,
and that's where I think it works so well, that it is that kind of 80s movie where they don't have the budget really to be having an opening battle scene, a middle battle scene. They're like, right, we're going to focus on the characters and just build it. So that's why it's such a memorable film for me, that the action scenes really stand out, that it's not a case that they're trying to trump the one that came 20 minutes ago and half an hour ago, and the first one has to be really good, then it's a smaller one, and then it's a bigger one, then it's a super one. It's like it just builds naturally, and it is that operatic thing that it's just building to a crescendo. It's you're so right with that analogy, John.
And again, it gets to the way that he's killing everybody makes it PG-13 instead of R, because these balloons look silly. They look like Tim Burton animated. They look like they could tie into the Nightmare Before Christmas universe, basically. And he's murdering everybody. Like, he's killing everybody. Like, you don't even, like, when I was, when you're a kid, like, this is a big action sequence and everything, you don't really process that, like, all of these people are going to die horribly in tremendous pain. Like, it's just done in such a way that it's just a big set piece.
I'm looking forward to watching Batman Returns, where it's focused on the victims of this attack, blaming Batman for not being able to save them.
Don't we love the films back in the day where like big overblown things happen, and we don't like have to get lost in that kind of minutia that just drives me crazy these days. Like it's a comic book, people. It's a comic book.
And I think it's
just
like the humor, though. I think it always has to be. With this, it is over the top. It's comedic. It's almost quite bizarre deaths. Whereas, say, things like other movies in recent years with, like, say, Avengers, Man of Steel, whatever, where people complain, people are dying. Some of those movies are more like, we want to be kind of taken seriously, so you almost have to take the deaths more seriously than these ones. Right. You're like, what? They're just being killed by some green gas. This is a bit nuts. So I think it's the same with humor. I almost try and judge every film by how it wants to be judged. If it wants to be judged as dark, serious, and gritty, okay, I'm going to try and view it through your eyes. With this, I'm viewing it kind of through the eyes that it wants to be viewed as. So I can kind of, I accept the deaths, the mass deaths here quite easily, I think.
I was convinced Knox died.
Knox? Yeah.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I was convinced that he died in that moment.
Yeah.
He died of complications afterwards. That's why he's not in the rest of them.
There you go. Yeah, it was a delayed concussion where he's. Yeah.
I love the model work in this movie. Me and Matt were talking last night about a movie that involved model work, and I think that's something that we've lost so much in the past few years. Is that it may not look as realistic, but it looks so damn good. Like it feels like, oh my god, that's a real thing. I wish I had that. Like I could imagine riding on that. It feels a genuine, real thing, and it looks fantastic still to this day. Not shy of 30 years from when it was released. And I think that I worry that CGI sometimes really does date things quite a lot with ships. With this, it still looks just so good.
Well, I'll say, though, too, that model work, look throughout the prequels, there's a lot of great model work in there. And look at The Lord of the Rings, where there's a ton of model work. And it holds up and looks fantastic. And you can't tell that it is a model because it's so good. So I think that model work today, the main issue with it is that it is so time consuming to create a model that holds up to the scrutiny of a 4K.
That shot.
For a photo that no one's taking right here.
Oh,
that shot. Sorry, I'm sorry to hijack that, Matt, but that shot.
I always remember it being the front cover of the soundtrack.
Oh, yeah. Even
score.
As a child, though, I was just kind of like, what? Like, who is he doing this for? Like, why? It's like in Star Trek 6, where they're all posing for a picture that nobody's taking at the end of the movie.
Yeah, but at the same time, what other movie has the courage to have a callback to Patton like this? Like, I absolutely, when I was a kid, I didn't get this. I was like, what's going on? Batman's flying down and the Joker's just standing there, and what's happening? It's a callback to Patton. And as soon as I saw Patton later, well, yeah, that too. But like like, pulling out the gun and shooting at the plane is straight out of the movie Patton. Like, it's a brilliant homage, because I didn't get it until years later. I grow up and I see Patton and I'm like, oh, that's what Burton was going for. I get it.
Oh, Batman's murdering some more people.
Yeah, Batman's murdering some more.
No, they're just.
But for some reason, this isn't called a murderverse.
They're getting boo-boos. He's firing rubber bullets.
Did Batman mean to miss the Joker here?
No,
because he hit all of the other goons. This is always really
kill
bothered
people.
me.
We've just been discussing that. These people aren't dead.
He only murders the goons.
No, I think that it's supposed to. He was. His weapons were designed more around a direct, large-scale assault, not a direct one-person shooting.
Gotcha. Yes. He and he doesn't have the force to be able to hit that,
exactly.
Like basically a womp rat in a T-17, so.
T-16.
T-16?
I
T-14?
like the model work there that you can
T16.
clearly tell it's such a small model of the small cars there. Like, it almost reminds me of, did you guys ever watch Thunderbirds, the puppet show?
Oh, yeah.
It really reminds me of that when, like, the things crash in that.
Basically look like micro machines.
To this day, from 13 years old to now, I watch the scene and I still go, how the hell did he survive? Where's he hiding?
He's Batman.
No, but like, where is he right now?
Listen, if he can drop off a nuclear bomb and make his way back from the middle of the bay all the way to shore and not get radiation poisoning, I think he can survive a little crash on some church steps.
Now, see, you're taking the extra textual knowledge right there, Tristan, and bringing it over. That's not fair.
I read a thing recently there. Jack Nicholson had quite an influence on this kind of final scene where they obviously go up the tower, and him and one of the producers went to see Phantom of the Opera, and they both looked at each other during the film. They're going, "Oh, this is such a brilliant idea! That's something to incorporate into the final scenes." That there was that collaborative effort, that they were seeing things like, oh, that's a brilliant idea. Once again, it ties into that opera vibe of the film, that they have incorporated Phantom of the Opera into this.
Yeah,
you're right though, John. How does he survive? He's like on the outside
Where was he?
of the plane.
He's
like,
Batman.
It's just hilarious.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, and the thing is that this go up too. Like you can call back to Phantom of the Opera and everything, but it calls back Vertigo, the end of the movie Vertigo. So I think that Burton actually has a lot of very slick and appropriate movie references, homages throughout the entire thing. Because this, the end of it very much calls to mind Jimmy Stewart going up, to the top of the bell tower.
I like that Batman's hurt. Now, I know he should be dead, but I like that he's hurt, that he's struggling, that, I don't know, it just...
It's the weight of all the people he's killed that's really slowing him down.
Yeah, it's just his consciousness is getting to him. But I always remember loving that, like when he hit the pews and they just started to fall down like dominoes. It just felt real to me. I was able to connect with him a little bit more.
Like he's almost like someone at the end of a run, just like, oh, come on, it's the stairs. Okay, come on.
Wouldn't you love it if at the end of all of this, the Joker's going up and like Batman's wounded and he knocks the pews over and he stops and he's just like, oh, she's just not worth this. And he just like goes back and plans how to take the Joker out in the sequel.
He just does a few grenades at the bottom and he just lets it just crash and collapse on the rest of the people. The people have gone, wow, the gas didn't kill me. I've survived. And just this tower just collapses on the entire parade route.
You know what I have to say that is kind of interesting about this is that this Batman feels very human. Like he doesn't feel like that inhuman Batman, like that nothing can touch him at this point.
Right.
Like he does feel like a guy in a suit who can get hurt and could die just at any moment, and that is kind of nice. Like it's very novel because I think Batman almost is nigh untouchable these days,
Yeah.
He's like super uber ninja with so much training, nobody can touch him. But this guy just feels like the guy who had enough, put on the suit, and was like,
right, exactly.
You know what? We're gonna take matters in our own hands because the police can't do it alone.
And it's also another thing that with this, like, if this movie, that he could die at the end of this movie, it could have just been a one-off, that we don't know this now, that when we go see Batman v Superman, Captain America, we know this guy's got another 4 movies on his deal. We know about the 6 next movies before we've even got through this other one. So with this Batman, like, it could have been a one-off, that there was no guarantee of a sequel until really the numbers started coming through. So that he could have died, maybe, obviously would have been a foolish mistake to make. But it's not out of the realm of possibility that he could have died.
Now, I don't want to talk about the spoiler that happens later, considering that Matt hasn't seen it in 10 years. But, somebody does die later, Matt. Spoiler alert. And it caught a lot of heat at the time because people didn't understand why that death had to happen. Where they said, okay, fine, the movie's been out for 30 years. I'm going to spoil it. The Joker dies at the end. Sorry, everybody.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
No, I know. I'm just, but
I
people
think that's
blasted
really
it at the
bold.
time. No, people blasted it at the time. They were like, "Why did you kill Joker? Joker was a great character. You should have brought him back for a sequel." And they did. They were very displeased that the Joker got killed. Very displeased.
It's funny when you see the parallels between Dark Knight and this, like when Joker versus Batman, because in that scene when he's in the Batwing and he's trying to kill Joker because Joker is killing innocent people, and then you go to the Dark Knight and Batman just can't do it, and he doesn't he's not even trying to kill him, and then you have this scene like where it's just you see, like when he falls down from the building, Batman does not try to save him; he lets him fall. And in the Dark Knight,
he's the reason. Batman's the reason he falls from the building.
I know that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And then you go to the Dark Knight, and Batman tries to pull him up, and
like
he
he's got the
succeeds.
cheese grater on his hand there.
And I think that's an interesting dichotomy of nature from us from an audience perspective, because in '89 we were totally okay with him doing all this and treating the Joker this way and killing the Joker and killing everybody, and then when it was established in Nolan where he's like, I don't kill, I have one rule, and I feel like we kind of go off of the last contextual knowledge that we have, and that's why people were so upset with Batman v Superman, because I feel like if Nolan didn't happen and we went from Burton to Snyder, there would be no reference to the Murderverse.
Yeah, I totally agree. I always love that visual gag with the goon that's about to jump onto Batman and he just falls down through the
love
wood.
it.
It gets me.
That was
every time.
Lawrence, wasn't it? Wasn't that Lawrence?
Was that Lawrence?
No, that was
maybe
Duncan.
Duncan MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod? Oh, he's fine.
Oh, of course. No. That you're thinking of Steve.
Was there a MacLeod that wasn't immortal?
There's only one I know of.
Doesn't she, I think it was she screamed 23 times or something like that in the movie.
Yeah,
it's probably why she was tired.
Which I think speaks to your point about how the character doesn't really go anywhere after a certain point. It's just kind of there.
Yeah,
it's just kind of there. Also, speaking of murder, this is by Batman's hands, or I should say thighs.
Yes,
where like this is
yeah.
Like this is one-on-one. This is no Batmobile. This is no weapon. This is Batman causes this man's death with his own hands.
It's a really interesting question though about because we have this thing for superheroes these days that they put themselves above the law to go out and stop these bad guys, but then they don't go far enough to actually take care of the problem completely, because these bad guys keep escaping from prison and causing much more destruction and much more death of all these innocent people. And it's like, you've put yourself like as judge, jury, but you won't be the executioner. And it's this strange thing of like saying that like you're better than morality, almost like you have an extra morality on top of like basic morality. And I don't understand. To me, it's like the Joker is responsible, if you look like the history, like of millions of deaths, right? And yet you're not willing to do what it takes to make sure that nobody else dies. And I don't know, that to me that's always a question that I struggle with, because it seems like an extra morality that the the hero's place on themselves.
I think it's actually not too surprising when I think of it, to be honest, because I almost compare it with that people like Batman, Captain America, Superman, all the way, they are all soldiers. They are all out to kind of deal with an issue. But at the end of the day, that, you know, when someone, how many times do they have to physically shoot someone to take someone out? That a lot more of the work of soldiers these days is more about stopping things, that murder shooting is the last resort, and that it's almost been tainted by, say, in the real world, that when it's got to the stage where someone's been detained, that's where it has to stop. That's the end. That when we have, say, we see things of, you know, British, American troops, whatever, doing things in, say, Abu Ghraib, things like that, that we expect our soldiers, our fighters to draw the line when someone surrenders. Whereas that kind of idea of where a lot of the comics were born out of, like World War II, where we had total war, where shooting an enemy was not necessarily a bad thing. That was a means to an end. Whereas now we have that morality that we expect from our soldiers, our police, and from our heroes, I think.
Okay.
I love in this moment where he's getting the crap kicked out of him and he still tells the joke. Like he's still, like,
right.
The it's just so great.
Or the fact that the goon can absolutely lay into Batman, and the Joker tries to throw one punch and like breaks his wrist, and he's like, "Ow!" Like I think that speaks to how the Joker is not a physical evil. He's always been a sort of intellectual, existential evil. It wouldn't hit a guy with glasses. I love that.
And like even in the, not to keep going back to the Dark Knight, but like that Joker, you know, he said, he's like, you think I'm gonna put, you know, like my plan on the line with a fist fight with you, you know, like,
right,
you know, like it's just it's perfect because that even though like in the comics we've seen Joker get really physical and get really brutal, he's much more of that intellectual evil.
I guarantee you, with those two towers that we see off to the side in the long shots, that the question today would be, why weren't there police snipers in there to take the Joker out? You know, like at this point, you could easily have a police sniper. He wouldn't even have to be that high. You could like put him on the highest building nearby. And you're like, all right, I'm lining him up. And it's like, you know, granted, it's anticlimactic, but that's where we would go as fans now.
It makes me think of like years ago, a guy dressed as Batman climbed Parliament, I think, or I think it was British Parliament. Like he climbed, he was up there for like an hour, and everybody was saying, "Oh man, if that was in the States, you would have dead Batman within 30 seconds."
That is very true.
In the UK, we've got a thing that's called Fathers for Justice, who believe that they're pretty much always men that they feel that they've been done bad in terms of, say, a divorce deal and how little they can see maybe their kids, access rights. So there was a period around that time, a good few years ago, where you would get these men that would dress up as Batman, Spider-Man, Thor, Captain America, all the different superheroes under the sun, and that's what they would use to protest that they were fathers for justice, that they were still heroes to perhaps their kid, but they weren't able to see them. I haven't heard about them doing any kind of antics in quite a few years, but it really was quite common at the time that you would see buildings with like these superhero dressed parents, like dressed as Batman, and it was quite a normal thing for quite a while, actually.
So you're telling me that they were trying to prove that they were adequate parents to watch children by dressing up? Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure that I saw the same logic breakdown here that everybody else did.
Nowadays that you see people dressed as superheroes when like we've got like big glass buildings, whatever, you see people cleaning right down the sides. You'll see the odd Batman window wiping if Bruce Wayne's obviously fallen on tough times in the recession.
I will say this, that this death sequence after takes a little bit long to play out, and I almost wonder if it's that Elfman came up with a great piece of music, because they've done this. Directors have done this before, where like they don't want to cut the piece of music, so they find a way to just extend the scene, and I just feel almost like that. And as for this scene where the Batman stops her with the cable, everybody was like, "Oh, he tear his arm off." Yet in the Dark Knight, they fall off a skyscraper and land on a cab,
taxi.
Yeah, it's like, I think I might have sprained something. I'm going to go. You all right? I'm a little thirsty. Okay, great. Go get a drink.
I have to admit, even
Go
I
get
was
a
going,
Diet Coke.
why are your legs not broken? Like, what is going on?
Because he's
Why is your-
Batman.
Why is your hip bone not in your skull?
I remember my mom, like, she would always want me to fast forward this part just because she's like, oh, that's so annoying. Somebody turn it off.
I'd love to see the 10-minute version of Batman you watched as a kid, Tristan. And then when you're an adult going, wait a second, there's death, murder, execution, blowing up, all that sort of stuff.
Did
What
they
was I
fast forward the
watching?
curse words too?
No.
Oh, cursing was okay. Okay.
It's like getting the widescreen version of Empire. It's like, whoa, like that happened?
Oh, okay. Hey, that guy died in an asteroid impact. Cool. Yeah, I got you.
Wow.
I'm tracking.
Yeah, see, John gets me.
I get you.
And
Of course, this is a great ending. It really is.
It really, really is.
Because of the setup. And I remember critics at the time lambasting it. They were like, "Oh, obviously it's set up for a sequel." It's like, well,
No
yeah.
crap. It's a franchise film. You know, it's a comic book movie.
Warner Brothers wants to make $1.01 from this thing, so yeah.
I remember people were complaining about that at the end of Batman Begins, and I was like, "You guys still haven't learned." Like,
Right.
really?
Right. The word begins is in the title. It implies that there's going to be more.
Batman begins, middles, and ends.
Yeah. But if the forces of evil should rise again to cast a shadow on the heart of the city, call me.
I think they were going to rename Star Wars Episode 7 The Force Awakens and then goes back to bed.
And then it hits snooze.
The signal. Here it comes, man.
This is the best shot in the film, isn't it? When you see...
The logo, like the Bat logo, it's still different from his chest. Bothers me.
They were covering all of the marketing angles, and Bruce Wayne had already trademarked everything so that Batman could sue all of the street vendors in Gotham that were going to start selling Batman shirts. He's a step ahead of us all.
That's true.
How do you think he made his money?
No, they just wanted to be able to sell you different suits, you know, and like you had to get the action figure with this suit
That's right.
symbol and that
That's right.
suit symbol, and so.
I do love in the comics where everything is branded. Like, everything Batman owns and makes is branded with the Bat symbol.
Like his
and
Bat-
from a
Batman
credit card?
credit card.
If anybody mentions that credit card again, I'll fly out to Scotland and slap you for that. That's
Just
that
because yours
credit card.
expires next year and his lasts forever.
Yeah, right.
I love how you put Maggie Gyllenhaal's amazingness and the Bat credit card horribleness on the same level. Of flying out and slapping someone.
And we all know how I feel about flying. This is great model work too, where where they're panning up is just, and the way that the music swells. I mean, like, this really does. I guess at the time it was a callback to Hollywood of Days Gone By, and now when you watch it, it's a callback to Hollywood of Days Gone By, but our Hollywood of Days Gone By. Like, this shot of him standing, just in the, oh, geez. And it will always be special.
Yeah, we won't get a
Always
shot
be
like that
special.
again.
Probably not.
So what's the post-credit stinger for this one again? I've completely forgotten.
Nice. It's Harvey
I like how
Dent
it's always time,
dying.
and it's Times New Roman as well. I like that there's something that, like, kind of dated and old school about this, that like that's what they've gone for.
All right, well, that's it, folks. That is Batman 1989. Guys, thank you so much for coming onto the Senate floor and doing that. This was a lot of fun. Rushing, where can we find you besides right here, right now?
Well, you can find me here on the network at Aggressive Negotiations with John Mills, where we talk about Star Wars each week. We pick a fun new topic in that, whether it's goofy or silly or serious. We like to cover it all in just, I don't know. I maybe you'd consider us odd. We just think we're Jedi Masters. Maybe that makes us crazy. I don't know. But check us out there. You can also find me on Twitter at MattRushing02. And I'm on the Trek FM network with a few shows. I do The Orb with Chris Jones about Deep Space Nine. I'm also on Literary Treks talking about the books and the comics of Star Trek. Also interviewing the authors there about their latest works. And you can also find me on the General Geek Show there. You can doing the 602 Club, which is a lot of fun. Kind of like the Senate floor, we just pick up some great new topic each week, whether it's new, old movie, book, Star Wars, whatever. We're doing it all. So check me out in those places.
Mills, how about you?
Well, as Matt mentioned, I'm on Aggressive Negotiations, a delightful Star Wars podcast here on the Nerd Party Network. You can also hear me on Words with Nerds with my pal Craig, where we, I think Lee said it best. We drink a little bit and then talk nonsense. And you can also find me on the Trek FM Network on Stage 9, exploring the work of Star Trek creators past, present, and future. And if you want to find me on Twitter and harass me, I'm Kessel Junkie.
I must say to the Jedi boys, one of my friends is always raving about your podcast. Try not to take it too personally when she's enjoying yours more than me. So, hey, yeah, oh yeah, the Jedi Master, oh yeah, that's a great show and all that sort of stuff. Well, but I'm over it. I'm over it.
All right, Lee, where can we find you on Twitter? And also, where can we find you every Friday?
You cannot find me on the Trek FM network, but you can find me on the Filibuster every 2 weeks with Matt Hansen, where we talk and moan and rave about films. And basically, someone said that we had the best sexual chemistry on the Nerd Party Network, so I'll take that award.
Tough to argue.
I'm gonna. I can't complain about that. I'm also going to be dropping a bit of a few movie recommendations every Friday, something out with the big franchise movies like Batman, Star Trek, all these movies that we know we're all going to be spending money on anyway. Maybe there's something else out there that people might want to spend their money on. So yeah, you can find me every Friday now doing that. So yeah, check me out. And I'm on Twitter at Lee_Nostromo.
Fantastic. Well, you can find me on Twitter at the Insane Robin. And before we go, I'm not going to do my normal diatribe, but I just want to mention our new partner, Loot Crate. I want you to find out more about this. This is an awesome subscription service for geeks like you, like me, like everyone. This is a fantastic, fun thing to do where you get a box of geek stuff for a very cheap price considering what you get. Find out more by going to lootcrate.com and going to our website at nerdparty.com. But if you want to save some money on it, go to lootcrate.com/nerdparty and enter in the code NERDPARTY. Easy to remember. Again, that's lootcrate.com/nerdparty. And you can find me also on the Trek FM network on Star Trek Voyager podcast To the Journey. You can also find me on this network on another show that I host with my wife, aka the girl, on Nerd Nuptial, where we look at nerd life through a married lens. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. I had a great time, and remember that I am the night.
Talk nerdy to me.
Welcome to Nerd Party.